Hello there and welcome back to Keys to and for Life. Well, if you've seen some of my videos, you know that normally I do a text and a song to go with it at the end. But today's session is going to be a bit different. Of course, it's to do with music as well. And what I'm going to tell you is a story, and the musical parts are going to come in between. I hope you enjoy it. Today's session is called Make Peace, Not War, and as some of you may expect, it's to do with communication. So here's the story. So it's a rainy afternoon and George is happily working away in his car. It's something he loves doing, it's something he enjoys after a hard week of work, and therefore he's really at peace with himself. So the music you can hear reflects that. Then, all of a sudden, there's a knock on the door. The door opens and Mary comes in. Mary's his wife. Mary says, "George, the printer's not printing and I really need to print something today. And you know this has been happening for a while now, so can you please help me?" You've probably heard Mary. George tries not to sigh. He doesn't really want to stop doing what he's enjoying at the moment, but he understands his wife. So he's like, "Yeah, I'll be around." And Mary disappears, thinking George will be around shortly. The next bit you're going to hear is George happily doing what he enjoys doing most on a Saturday afternoon. But there's this little uneasiness at the back of his head. He's like, "Yeah, well, I should be going and helping Mary, but it's been such a hard week and I really deserve this, and maybe she's forgotten all about it. Last time she forgot as well, so I'll be fine." And he continues and continues and continues. Then, all of a sudden, no knocking, Mary comes in the door. She's like, "George, I told you, you need to do something about the printer now. George, why are you not coming? You know, you said you'd come. Why are you not listening to me? You never listen to me, George." And George thinks, no, this is not good. He says, "Mary, I do listen to you. This is just not true." And Mary's like, "Yes, it is." And George is like, "No, it isn't." "Yes, it is." "No, it isn't." So they continue until the volcano explodes. After a real nice explosion, where actually both of them don't feel that nice, they feel terrible, Mary says, "You never do what you should be doing. You never listen to me. You just don't love me anymore." And George's like, "Oh my God, this is not what I wanted." So George says, "Mary, this is just simply not true. You know I love you." And Mary's like, "Really?" George says, yes, I do. George says, honestly, I think all of this is completely unnecessary. Let's go and do something together. Something we enjoy doing. Would you like to go to the movies tonight? And Mary's like, ooh, George, you haven't asked me in a while. That's really nice. Yes, let's go to the movies tonight. So our little story has come to a good end, and I'm sure most of you have had similar conflicts in your lives before. So let's take a step back and look at the conflict. How did it come to be? Well, George obviously was quite happy when things started, and it seems that he also had a long, hard week at work and felt it was time for some fun and relaxation. Mary, on the other hand, was under pressure because she wanted to get something done and was unable due to the printer not working. Also, she was a bit annoyed from the start because she had told George before and he hadn't taken the time to repair the printer yet. Therefore, she's less patient than she might have been otherwise. And it would have been good for George to pick up on that. Also, she takes his refusal to help her personally. At this point, what could have prevented the conflict? The key is good communication. Good communication happens when we talk about how we feel rather than accusing the other person of doing things wrongly. Also, when we take responsibility for things we did not do well. We can use good communication to de-escalate, but also to prevent conflicts from even happening. So George could have remembered that the issue wasn't all that new and that he had promised to repair before. He could have apologized for not doing so. He could also have explained, more importantly, that he was really in need of some relaxation time. And he could have promised to repair at a fixed time later in the day or the next day, and then be sure to keep his promise. Mary would then have been able to understand George better and either explain to him why the issue was really urgent or waited for another day. All of this didn't happen, sadly, so our story went on without George communicating his needs and hoping he'd get away with not repairing once again. Mary, on the other hand, sits there with no feedback, waiting, and starts to fume until she can take it no longer and storms into the garage in a rage and very emotional. When emotions take over, even if we are normally calm and empathic people, we tend to accuse the other person and use words like never or always, using you statements. You statements of this sort are seen as an attack, and therefore the other person will either get defensive or attack back, and war will start. Normally, the first thing the other person thinks is never and always. No, that's just not true. They'll come up with the one exception to the rule, using this to defend themselves. So you get into an escalation mode with yes, no, until one of them explodes in helpless anger, not knowing how to get out of all of this. So would there be a way out? Again, yes. For one thing, if the words never and always are not used in the first place. Instead, Mary could say, George, I know you've had a hard week and would like to relax, but I really have to print this report today. I do not want to start a fight, but you had said you'd come, and I've been waiting for an hour now. It makes me really feel sad. Do you think you can put just a little break to what you're doing now and help me fix my printer? I promise I'll leave you in peace to enjoy your hobby for the rest of the evening then. So what she does is she acknowledges his needs. She reminds him of his promise. She also says how she feels rather than accusing him. She asks him without shouting in a calm tone, and she closes by promising to give him space and time to enjoy himself afterwards. Not all of these elements are necessary, of course. They're just options. The most important one is that she uses I statements rather than you statements and accusing him. So what happens after the explosion? Well, it does get George to think, and he does assume responsibility for the situation. He also realizes that the whole thing is actually completely unnecessary, and he wants to de-escalate, which he does by telling Mary he loves her. Mary doesn't really want to fight either. Of course, she is happy to join him on the de-escalation mode, and the two of them find something to enjoy together, which is musically reflected in that they start off in different harmonies in the story and then actually end up on a new harmony together. So I hope you've enjoyed the musical war and the de-escalation, and I'd be very pleased if some of the ideas help you de-escalate or even prevent conflicts in the future. By the way, I left the printer unrepaired, so the issue is actually still unresolved. And hopefully both of them will know how to better resolve it in the future using some of the tips here. So it's bye for today from me. Have a nice rest of the day or the evening, and do enjoy yourselves.